Part 34. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, De Chuan-Chi. Chapter 332. Only Sky, before she awakened her superpowers, was just a 16-year-old girl, and her proficiency was just a useless hacker skill. Carrot dash dot. Dot dash dot. Dot carrot dash. And even this useless ability was replaced by the intelligent program Jarvis after Tony joined. Speaking of which, this is also because Sky has a strong personality and does not want to be the most useless one in the team. Thinking of this, Yejuju couldn't help but secretly decide in his heart whether he should help Sky find the obelisk and the Kree temple and activate her special abilities. However, the problem that gave Yejuju a headache appeared again. According to the development of the plot, the obelisk at this time was still stored in the mysterious material warehouse of S.H.I.E.L.D., classified as 0845 dangerous and mysterious items, and sealed. We have to find a way to get this item out of S.H.I.E.L.D. It seems. Yejuju had to deal with the old Fox Fury and make a deal with him. Thinking of this, Yejuju looked at Sky and said seriously. "No. Sky. You have great potential, I believe you will grow up and become an indispensable member of us. So. Don't complain, believe in yourself, believe in us, okay?" "Really?" Sky blinked his big eyes and asked seriously. "Yeah." Yejuju said seriously. After listening to Yejuju's words, Sky's mood really improved. Looking at Yejuju's bright eyes, he nodded heavily and lowered his head to eat breakfast. Seeing this, Yejuju also felt relieved and lowered his head to eat breakfast. What he didn't know was that not only was he looking for the obelisk, but Hydra was also looking for it. Since the obelisk of White Space was destroyed by Kate and disappeared, the remaining Hydras have never stopped looking for the obelisk. Although the Hydras now do not know the true purpose of the obelisk, it does not hinder their interest in the obelisk. Just as the Red Skull took great pains to obtain the cosmic cube, the obelisk is also within their research scope. This is also one of the reasons why Hydra has spent countless efforts to infiltrate SHIELD. Unfortunately, the Hydra agents who infiltrated SHIELD, even if they were as advanced as Pairs, could not find the whereabouts of the obelisk. This was also Kate's personal arrangement. After storing these mysterious items together in the 0845 warehouse, they have been sealed up to this day. Just because the items sealed there, in addition to being dangerous, are things whose passage is unknown. It was also because of the obelisk that Yejuju ignored the cosmic cube. Because, from the beginning to the end, Yejuju still looked at the progress of Marvel according to the development of the plot, but he did not expect that many things would change because of his intervention. For example, Loki met Thanos a few years in advance. A week later, Loki finally returned to the Nine Realms. This time, Loki did not return to Asgard, but waited for the passage opened by the cosmic cube to enter the Earth directly. This is also the method Thanos taught Loki to find the cosmic cube. In fact, Thanos also lied to Loki. He just told Loki that the scepter he gave Loki had a special connection with the cosmic cube. Once the cosmic cube is activated on Earth, it will locate the scepter in the Nine Realms and open a passage for Loki to enter the Earth. After Loki enters the Earth, he can use the cosmic cube as a coordinate to open the space-time wormhole for the Chitauri army to invade the Earth. At this time, as expected, S.H.I.E.L.D. built a base underground to study the cosmic cube. In the base, physics experts led by Dr. Eric Seviger are using various instruments and methods to study the secrets of the cosmic cube. I have to say that Eric is a genius. Compared to the purpose of using the cosmic cube to make energy weapons after the Red Skull got it, Eric found the real purpose of the cosmic cube. That is, using the energy of the cosmic cube to open up space. This is not. In the experimental hall at the center of the base, Eric combined his imagination with reality and really made a fairly stable space-time coordinate transmission device. After spending a lot of time and careful calculations, Eric asked Fury and finally decided to do the experiment of opening the space-time channel today. Fury was very interested in this and brought Hill to the base on the day of the formal experiment. In the base, Coulson and Hawkeye Barton stayed in the laboratory to ensure the safety of the base. After obtaining Fury's approval, Eric instructed a group of staff to do the final inspection. After ensuring that everything was ready, he took a deep breath and shouted, "Start the experiment." After the voice fell, the staff began to turn on the switches of various instruments in an orderly manner. As the instrument rotated, the container containing the cosmic cube began to work with a humming sound. In an instant, the blue light became brighter, illuminating the entire laboratory hall into a blue expanse. Then, the energy in the cosmic cube was violently ejected and shot towards the space-time positioning device placed in front of the wall of the hall. Success! Everyone felt this way. After the beam of light was projected onto the positioning device, a water wave-like light screen appeared in the middle of the circular device. The light screen was not transparent from front to back, and it was like a mercury mirror, rippling slightly. Fury suddenly became nervous, pursed his lips tightly, stared at the transmission device, and was also on guard against unexpected situations. Hawkeye Barton seemed to have sensed the danger, and stood up from the iron frame. There was no expression on his cold face, and he took the bow and arrow behind him and put the arrow in his hand. After waiting for a long time, the mercury light screen suddenly trembled violently, as if something was about to come out of it. Sure enough. After another long time, the light screen also burst out with a strong white light, and the light was so dazzling that everyone present couldn't help but raise their hands to cover their eyes. After the light completely dissipated, a figure appeared in the middle of the ring. Because this person was half kneeling on the ground, no one present could see his appearance clearly. This scene immediately shocked everyone, and they didn't know how to communicate with this person. Fury was still experienced, after all, he had seen aliens more than 20 years ago. So, Fury stood up and asked, "Hello, sir. This is Earth, welcome to Earth. Well, can you tell us where you are from?" Hearing this, Loki, who was half kneeling on the ground, raised a sinister arc at the corner of his mouth, and thought to himself, "Thanos really didn't lie to me. I didn't expect that there are other ways to come to Midgard besides the Rainbow Bridge. So, people of Midgard, are you ready? Are you ready to welcome your new king, Loki, the Lord of the Nine Realms? Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter." Author, Dachuan Chi. Chapter 333. Popular Recommendations. Thinking of this, Loki couldn't help but feel proud. It seems that the wormhole will be opened in the next moment and the Katire will be sent into Midgard. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Use their power to kill Yejuju who brought him humiliation. Loki slowly stood up from the ground like a king. He spread his hands, raised the spiritual scepter in his right hand high, looked at Fury with pity in his eyes and said, "You should call me the Great King, His Majesty Loki. Do you know? Mortal." Hearing such nonsensical words, everyone was scratching their heads, and at the same time, they finally saw the appearance of the person coming. I saw this man was tall and thin, with a helmet with antlers on his head that made people laugh. Yes. It's a helmet that makes people want to laugh, even though it's gold and may be made entirely of gold. He was wearing dark green clothes that were timeless, and at his feet were a pair of black high-top leather boots. From his outfit, Fury knew at a glance that this man was not from Earth, so he stood up and asked, "King? I don't know what your excellency is talking about. This is Earth, please identify yourself, otherwise. How else? Kill me? A god?" Loki said disdainfully upon hearing this, and the contemptuous look in his eyes made Fury frown tightly. From Loki's tone, Fury knew that the person coming was not a good person. While signaling his men to prepare for the attack, he said, "Whoever you are, you only have two choices now. One, put down the spear in your hand and go to the place we have prepared for you to tell you where you are from. Two, even if we arrest you, we can have a good talk." The impolite tone made Loki very unhappy. Loki curled his lips and said disdainfully, "Ha ha! The Midgardians are indeed still so arrogant. How dare you speak to me in such a tone?" After a pause, Loki continued loudly, "I told you. You have no other choice, your Galds. Either surrender to me or die." As soon as he finished speaking, Hawkeye took the lead and launched an unceremonious attack on Loki. With a swish sound, an arrow shot quickly in front of Loki, but Loki blocked it easily with his scepter. Although the arrow did not pose any threat to him, Loki became interested in Hawkeye. Of course, what interests me is Hawkeye's archery skills, which are very good and accurate. Even more powerful than many archers in Asgard, but limited by his own strength and unable to threaten the gods. Thinking of this, Loki raised his head and glanced at Barton, who was continuing to knock an arrow with a solemn expression. Then Fury also took out his pistol and shouted, "Everyone, fire!" On the other hand, he also shot at Loki. The staff, who had no fighting ability, retreated out of the hall in panic while the two sides were fighting. The SHIELD security personnel guarding the laboratory all picked up their rifles and started shooting at Loki. Without any panic, Loki raised the scepter in his hand and activated an energy shield in front of him, blocking all the bullets fired at him. Seeing this scene, Furyui's heart trembled. He really didn't expect that this man who claimed to be a king would have such magical means. You can easily gather an energy shield outside your body. Such a method is really not something ordinary people like me can resist. Thinking of this, Furyui couldn't help but plan to retreat with the Rubik's Cube. Hawkeye once again took the opportunity to shoot a few arrows, including his explosive arrows. But when it hit Loki, it was blocked by the energy shield and fell to the ground. Strangely, it was not detonated at all. Seeing that the long-range attack was ineffective, Hawkeye pulled the rope and slid down from the iron frame, intending to try using close combat. Don't think that Hawkeye is just a shooter. The melee combat ability is weak. In fact, in SHIELD, except for Natasha, who is best at melee combat, no one is Barton's opponent in melee combat. Otherwise, later after the Extreme War, because of the disappearance of his family, Barton, who was stimulated, would kill the most vicious people around the world with just a samurai sword, find his wife and children, and eliminate many gangsters. Loki didn't pay attention to these ordinary mortals at all, and slowly walked down from the device. Targeting a security guard who shot him, he flew into the air and landed in front of the security guard. He pierced the tip of the scepter into his chest, killing the security guard. He then waved the scepter in his hand and shot an energy beam from the scepter, killing other security guards who dared to shoot at him. Personnel. Just as Loki was killing SHIELD security personnel, Barton suddenly rushed up from behind Loki. A pitch-black dagger held in his hand stabbed Loki hard in the lower back. Pity. Loki's reaction was much faster than Barton's. Just when the dagger was about to stab his lower back, Loki suddenly turned around and pressed the scepter in his hand against Hawkeye's chest. The tip of the spear touched Barton's chest, and the sharp touch immediately made Barton freeze in place, daring not to move at all. But the dagger in Barton's hand was still a slap away from Loki's body. Loki's eyes were shining, and he looked at Barton and said casually, "Oh, a different mortal. You can be used by me temporarily." After saying that, Loki activated the power of the mind gem embedded in the scepter, intending to assimilate Barton as his temporary subordinate. At this time, Fury, embarrassed, emerged from behind the machine and saw Loki's assimilation of Barton. Although he didn't understand what Loki was doing, he knew that his people were not Loki's opponents. In order to prevent the cosmic cube from falling into the hands of the other party, He had to take the cube away from here immediately. Thinking of this, Fury took advantage of Loki's temporary inattention and immediately took out the cosmic cube from the device that activated the cube, put it in a box, and ran out of the experimental hall. Loki ignored Fury, who was running away, and concentrated on assimilating Barton. In his opinion, as long as the cube had not left this machine room, the cube was his. After a while, Barton's blue eyes turned black, and recovered in the blink of an eye. However, Barton had already lost his self-consciousness and temporarily became Loki's subordinate. At this time, Barton looked at Loki, put away the dagger in his hand, and bowed his head respectfully to Loki. Loki smiled with satisfaction, and then cast his eyes on Dr. Eric, who activated the cosmic cube. In the same way, before Eric had time to escape, he assimilated Eric into his subordinate. At this time, the base was already in chaos, and everyone was anxious to flee outside the base. Fury rushed out of the base regardless of anything, intending to leave here by helicopter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan. Chapter 334. Rocky chased him out of the back of the pickup truck driven by Barton. Not surprisingly, just outside the base, the helicopter Fury was riding in was shot down by Loki, and the cosmic cube was also captured by Loki. After Loki left the base was still raised to the ground. There was such a big movement because it was far away from the city and there were not many people there, so no one knew about it. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. This includes Yejeju and Tony, who have intelligent programs. Among the two, Yejeju never expected that the plot of Avengers 1 would start a few years in advance. Tony is immersed in continuing to develop his own armor, trying to catch up with the speed of Yejeju's equipment updates. It was already the next day when Yejeju knew that the cosmic cube had been taken away by Loki. This was only known from Fury's mouth when Coulson personally visited and invited Yejeju to SHIELD. In Furyui's office, Furyui said to Yejeju seriously, "Yeah, can you promise me that you will never do anything that endangers the safety of the Earth? Please think carefully before answering me, because this will be a decisive factor in the relationship between S.H.I.E.L.D. and you in the future." Looking at the extremely serious Furui, Yejeju thought ridiculously. Is this director of Braised Eggs going to start cheating mode? Just like you fooled Team Rice, Tony, and Banner, are you fooling yourself into joining the Avengers? Hee. I won't be fooled by you. I am alone and go my own way, doesn't it sound good to him? But although I won't join any bullshit Avengers alliance, my relationship with S.H.I.E.L.D. cannot be at loggerheads. It's best to form a cooperative relationship so as not to offend S.H.I.E.L.D., otherwise I want to get some from S.H.I.E.L.D. in the future. The benefits are harder to come by. Thinking of this, Yejeju also looked at Furui and said seriously, I can assure you, Director Fury, I will not do anything that endangers the safety of the Earth, nor will I take the initiative to provoke others. Certainly. The premise is that no one comes to provoke me. If I say this, you should be satisfied, Director Fury. Furui did not answer Yejeju, but stared at Yejeju closely, as if he wanted to know from Yejeju's facial expression whether what Yejeju said was true or false. In fact, what Yejeju said was absolutely correct. He really would not take the initiative to provoke anyone. As for the original Jin Bin, it was not because of the system mission. Otherwise, Jin Bing didn't provoke him, so how could Yejeju kill him? After a long while, it seemed that Furui finally confirmed that Yejeju was telling the truth, and then said to Yejeju, Yeah, based on your special abilities, I would like to sincerely invite you to join our SHIELD, don't worry. Stop it. I don't want to join your shield and do those bullshit things for the so-called powerful people and help them clear obstacles. But before Furui finished speaking, he was interrupted unceremoniously by Yejuju. Hearing Yejuju's rejection, Furui seemed to have expected it and was not disappointed. However, after hearing Yejuju's words, Furui suddenly became interested and asked eagerly. But what? Seeing that Furui was so eager, Yejuju couldn't help but feel happy and secretly said. Sure enough, I did the right thing, and when I felt sleepy, someone gave me a pillow. He wanted to establish a relationship with S.H.I.E.L.D., and Fury came to find him. He was worrying about how to get what he wanted from S.H.I.E.L.D., when Fury came to his door and asked him to make conditions. Thinking of this, Yejuju did not hesitate and said simply. But we can cooperate, right? As long as it's a problem that S.H.I.E.L.D. can't solve, as long as I can handle it, I can help you. Certainly. This is the reward for helping you with things. Speaking of this, Yejuju paused to see how Furui would reply to him. Sure enough, although Yejuju's answer did not satisfy Furui, Furui was a very decisive person. It is not incomprehensible to think that a powerful person like Yejuju would not want to be restrained. But using profits to tie Yejuju to S.H.I.E.L.D. is also a compromise, isn't it? After Yejuju has cooperated with S.H.I.E.L.D. for a long time, people outside will naturally classify Yejuju as a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. In this case, when one day, Yejuju encounters an irresistible enemy, wouldn't he still ask to come to S.H.I.E.L.D. and himself? That's when. Isn't Yejuju letting himself be manipulated? He had a good idea, but it was a pity. He still underestimated Yejuju, just based on Yejuju's current strength, if he could show it all. Believe. Except for Thanos and the Eternals and Celestials who have been hiding on the Earth, at most Odin and the Ancient One, and Captain Marvel Carol Danvers, no one can really do anything to Yejuju. Wanting Yejuju to beg Furui is just wishful thinking. Now that the words had come to this, Furui naturally agreed simply and did not even put forward any other conditions to restrict Yejuju. Seeing that Furui agreed, Yejuju also took the opportunity to propose the reward he wanted. Director Furui, you know that I don't have any special needs for money, so the reward I want may be a little special. I wonder if Director Furui can give me the reward I want. Hearing this, Furui's heart skipped a beat, and a bad premonition arose spontaneously. But in order not to lose such a powerful foreign aid as Yejuju, Fury pondered for a while and asked. Then, can I ask, what are your so-called rewards? Aha! Hearing this, Yejuju laughed and hesitated whether to directly put forward his conditions. In the end, he decided not to be so obvious and said. I think you also know that I am best at mechanical manufacturing. You can provide me with some special metals, such as adamantium, vibranium, etc. Of course, in addition to this, I am also interested in some mysterious items. I also heard that your S.H.I.E.L.D. has collected many items of unknown use, which are also included in the exchange conditions. Hearing this, Fury's face looked bad, and he was very dissatisfied with Yejuju's lion's mouth. He thought. You really dare to ask? Metal. Still special metal. Or extremely rare, basically unsaleable special metal? Adamantium. Vibranium. Are these really ordinary metals? Adamantium is easy to say. Although it is difficult to manufacture and very expensive, S.H.I.E.L.D. can still get it with its strength. But vibranium is hard to come by. Not to mention S.H.I.E.L.D., even those big conglomerates would have a hard time getting enough vibranium. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan-Chi. Chapter 335. Seeing that Furui's already dark face turned even darker, Yejuju said calmly. Of course, what you can get depends on the size of the things you ask me to help with before we make a deal. Don't worry, I'm not a greedy person and will give you a fair price. After finishing speaking, without waiting for Furui to answer, in order to increase his own weight, Yejuju simply pointed out the reason why Furui came to him this time and said, "Just like this time you ask someone to come to me, I know the general context of this and that thing. You can listen to it and see what the price is after I help you handle it." After saying that, Yejuju remained silent, folded his hands on his chest, and waited for Furui's reaction. This is also the information that Yejuju found using the Red Queen after coming to S.H.I.E.L.D. Don't think that Yejuju is just stupid and bold. He was invited by S.H.I.E.L.D. and did not understand the situation in advance. That is not Yejuju's style. From this preserved information, Yejuju soon learned that Loki had returned to Earth, had obtained the Mind Scepter, and snatched the Cosmic Cube. So, next, there is the battle where Loki leads the Chitauri to invade the Earth. Of course, Yejuju has no intention of not dealing with Loki and the Chitauri without taking advantage. However, it would not be Yejujuyun's character not to take advantage of this opportunity. Yejuju's words shocked Furui, and he was wondering how Yejuju knew what happened in the suburbs yesterday. Fortunately, Furui was still able to keep his composure and asked in an unhurried manner. "Oh. Then yeah, what do you know? Can you tell me?" "Certainly. If the information you mentioned can provide us with corresponding help, I don't mind asking you to help and give you what you want remuneration." When he mentioned the word remuneration, Furui deliberately emphasized his tone, seeming to be a little dissatisfied with Yejuju's style of doing things with remuneration. Yejuju didn't care, and slowly leaned his body on the back of the chair, changed into a more comfortable position, and then continued. "What happened at the S.H.I.E.L.D. base yesterday, I know who did it. I can tell you that the person who stole the Cosmic Cube, oh, strictly speaking, he is no longer a normal human being, but an almost household name in our Nordic mythology. God of mischief and lies, god of fire, Loki. I believe you also know some of his legends. Of course, don't think I'm talking about fantasy, after all. Not long ago, you just met his brother, Thor, the god of thunder." Furui didn't say anything when he heard this. Instead, he tapped his fingers on the table and asked after a long while. "Then do you know why this god of mischief came to Earth? In other words, do you know why he stole the Cosmic Cube?" Yejuju shrugged and continued. "I probably know why he wanted to steal the Cosmic Cube, but let me first explain to you what the Cosmic Cube is." After speaking, Yejuju began to tell about the origin of the 6 gems. The Cosmic Cube is what the people on Earth call him. In fact, its real name is Space Gem. Its specific function is to open a specific time and space, or even open up a special channel. There are a total of 6 gems like this in our universe. Speaking of this, Yejuju made a 6 sign in cooperation and continued. They are the Power Stone, the Mind Stone, the Soul Stone, the Reality Stone, the Time Stone and the Space Stone that was stolen by Loki. After saying the name of a gem, Yejuju curled his finger back to show the importance of this matter. Audience. Seeing Furui wanting to interrupt, Yejuju interrupted him and said, "Don't ask me where these 6 gems are, I won't tell you. In short, even if you know, you can't get them. I can only tell you that once these 6 gems come together, they will explode with unimaginable power, even destroying half of the universe." Closer to home, I think Director Fury already knows why Loki wanted to steal the Space Stone, right? Ugh. When Furui heard this, he nodded with an extremely solemn expression and said, "He wants to open a space-time wormhole and let some so-called gods in. Does he want to invade the Earth?" Without waiting for Yejuju to answer, Furui shook his head and denied his guess, and said to himself, "That's not right. Since the god of thunder can come down to the Earth, it proves that the gods can also come down to the Earth. Then why would Loki steal the universe? Oh, no, is it the Space Gem?" Naturally, I asked Yejuju this question, and Yejuju replied very wisely. I forgot to tell you, Loki has been exiled into the universe by Odin, the king of gods, which means that he is no longer a member of the gods and is on his way to escape. So, his purpose of stealing the space gem is self-evident. You mean? Hearing this, the cunning Furui immediately thought of the answer and continued. He wants to develop his power on Earth and confront the gods. The purpose of taking away the space stone is to open a channel to the Earth in the universe, so that some aliens who cannot enter the Earth can enter the Earth and help him occupy the Earth. Hearing this, Yejuju had to give Fury a thumbs up, and he admired this old fox of S.H.I.E.L.D. He could think of so much with just a few words of reminder from himself. He really deserves to be the current director of S.H.I.E.L.D. His brain circuit is really good. Seeing that Yejuju agreed with him, Fury was not happy at all. Instead, he was very uncertain in his heart. The speed of his fingers tapping on the table became faster and faster, as if he was making a decision. Yejuju knew that Fury would make the final decision, so he was not in a hurry. He even put his hands behind his head and closed his eyes to take a nap. After a while, Fury seemed to have made the final decision and said, "Yeah. I now formally invite you to help us stop Loki's conspiracy, or to help us fight against the aliens when they invade the Earth." At this point, as if knowing that Yejuju wanted to be paid, he added, "Of course, if we ask you to help, we will pay you. You can ask for what you want right now, and I will give you a reply right now." In fact, the cunning Fury knew that even if he didn't pay, Yejuju would not hesitate to deal with the aliens at that time. However, Fury's consideration was to maintain a long-term cooperative relationship with Yejuju, so that in the future, if he encountered a problem that S.H.I.E.L.D. could not solve and did not threaten the safety of the Earth, he would have the possibility of asking Yejuju for help. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan Chi. Chapter 336. Promising Yejuju now is just to give Yejuju a little sweetness. Hearing this, Yejuju immediately became energetic, sat upright, stretched out his hand and said, "Deal. I agree to cooperate with S.H.I.E.L.D. My reward? Very simple. I just want to enter the 0845 warehouse once and take something from it." Searched can on Google. Of course, this thing is of little use to you S.H.I.E.L.D., but it is of great help to my friends. You can also rest assured that once I get this thing, there will be no harm to you. Maybe S.H.I.E.L.D. will have another powerful ally in the future, but not necessarily. After finishing speaking, he seemed to be worried that Furui would not agree, so he added, "I can tell you responsibly, the reason why Loki is known as the god of mischief. He is not easily caught. What he is best at is deception, magic, and the art of clones. In other words, it is impossible for us to stop him before he opens the space-time channel. The only way is..." Speaking of this, Yejuju's expression became very serious and said, "After he opens the passage, defeat the invading aliens and send the space gem away to the person who can protect it. Only then can this matter be completely resolved. Don't worry, I will find a way to contact those who can take good care of the gems. I will also do my best to help you defend the Earth and prevent Loki and the aliens from succeeding. So, times degree 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 times degree 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 times. Next, Director Fury can prepare for war in advance." After saying that, Yejuju stood up, stretched out his hand to Furui and said, "I've said everything that needs to be said, and I've mentioned the conditions that need to be mentioned, then. I have to go back and get ready for the battle, so I'll take my leave. Director Fury, I'm glad to have friendly cooperation with S.H.I.E.L.D. Goodbye." Seeing this, Furui had no choice but to stand up, shook hands with Yejuju, and said, "Okay. Goodbye." Saying goodbye to Furui, Yejuju put his hands in his pockets and walked to the elevator leisurely. In fact, Yejuju could say more. He could have snatched the gem before Loki got it and opened the space-time wormhole. But Yejuju wanted to get this mission, a lot of experience, and even a Chitauri aircraft. There were so many benefits, why stop it? Yejuju, who was thinking about something while walking, didn't know. There were several pairs of eyes watching him leave in the darkness. If Yejuju saw them, he would definitely recognize these people as Hydra's undercover agent in S.H.I.E.L.D., Crossbones Bullock, and several key members of Hydra. Looking at Yejuju leaving, Bullock said to the people around him, "Do you know why this Chinese guy came to S.H.I.E.L.D.? I don't know, boss. I just know that Fury invited him here. You know, boss, we haven't been able to place the right people around Fury yet. The monitoring of Fury cannot be done in detail." The elevator door opened, and Yejuju got out of the way of the people coming out of the elevator, but he saw someone very familiar to him at a glance. This man is about 18 centimeters tall, has very handsome blonde hair, and is also very handsome. Under the casual leather jacket and tight t-shirt, there were bulging muscles. Especially the shield with the 5-pointed star logo on his back, indicating that this person is the most beloved superhero in the United States, Captain Steve. This was Yejuju's first time seeing Steve in real life, and he couldn't help but look at Steve seriously for a moment. Steve was obviously used to being looked at. He nodded friendly to Yejuju and passed by Yejuju. Yejuju smiled back and stepped into the elevator. Just when the elevator door was about to close, Yejuju saw Steve turn around and look at him with a puzzled expression. This glance made Yejuju very confused and thought to himself, "Does this me team know themselves? Why are you looking at yourself like this?" But he didn't know that Steve also remembered who Yejuju was at this time. Isn't it the dangerous Chinese boy in the video someone showed him some time ago? Although he hates evil, he is not a guy who follows what others say. Naturally, he will not take action against Yejuju without investigation. What's more, Yejuju is just a 16-year-old boy. He didn't even bother to deal with Yejuju. But Steve, who had not planned to take action at first, now became very interested in Yejuju. Because this can be seen from the fact that Yejuju can freely enter and exit S.H.I.E.L.D. Yejuju is really not a simple Chinese boy. So, next, should I conduct a detailed investigation on Yejuju and then find a time to discuss it with Yejuju? Just at this moment, Steve had so many thoughts running through his mind, which was why he turned back to look at Yejuju carefully. After leaving S.H.I.E.L.D., Yejuju returned home. On the way, he called Tony and Parker and invited them to his home for lunch. Although Tony was very busy, he gladly accepted Yejuju's invitation. After purchasing ingredients in the supermarket, Yejuju returned home, greeted Sky, and started to get busy. When the meal was about to be ready, Tony and Parker also arrived at Yejuju's house. After arranging for a few people to sit down and have a pleasant lunch, except for Sky who was clearing away the dishes in the kitchen, Yejuju and Tony Parker sat on the sofa. Tony endured it for so long, and finally couldn't help but ask, "Yeah, you asked me here not to treat me to a meal, right? What's going on? You can talk about it now." Hearing this, Yejuju gave Tony a thumbs up and said, "Sure enough, I can't hide anything from you." After speaking, Yejuju sat upright, his expression became serious, and he said seriously, "You know everything about the last time Thor was on Earth, right?" "Yeah. I know, and I was personally involved." "Does this have anything to do with him?" "It does matter." "Of course it does. The god of thunder has a younger brother called Loki, the god of mischief. You should have heard of it in Nordic legends, right?" "Huh? You mean, Loki, the most troublesome god of pranks and lies in Norse mythology?" "What? Is he here this time?" "Yes. Not only are you here, but you are also preparing to do something big on Earth." "Oh. Tell me, I'm interested in this." Tell us quickly, what is he going to do on Earth? So, Yejuju explained in detail how Loki had robbed the Cosmic Cube and the 6 Infinity Stones, and then concluded. So, Loki stole the Space Stone in order to open the space-time door and let aliens like him enter the Earth, preparing to invade and occupy the Earth. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan Chi. Chapter 337. His neat inhalations sounded one after another, but Tony, Parker, and Sky, who had just finished cleaning the kitchen and entered the living room, all gasped in shock at the news. Then Tony stood up excitedly, waved his arms and said, "Really? Great, I finally have a chance to fight as Iron Man. Don't tell me, you were the one who showed your hand last time. This time it's my turn to fight with those aliens. God, let's have a fight. There's me, I'm going to participate too, you can't leave me behind, I'm also a part of the team." Parker also expressed his opinion impatiently, but Sky sat on the sofa silently with a very ugly expression. Yejuju also saw Sky's unhappiness and understood that she felt uncomfortable and out of place because she could not participate in everyone's battle. But even so, Yejuju didn't know how to persuade her. I had to ignore Sky for the time being. Anyway, after this incident, I would be able to get the obelisk, and then take Sky to the Kree temple and activate her superpowers. At the same time, in Fury's office, Steve, Natasha, and Coulson were accepting Fury's arrangements. This time, Fury no longer wanted to hide S.H.I.E.L.D's strength, and was preparing to launch all 3 sky carriers in order to deal with the danger posed by Loki this time. At Yejuju's place, after arranging everything, Tony and Parker said goodbye to Yejuju. One went back to class, and the other went back to continue studying the armor, but they were both ready to go into battle at any time. When night came, Loki really started to take action. Just like in the play, Rocky brazenly attacked number 28 Königstrasse in Stuttgart, Germany. He dug out the eyeballs of an important person in front of everyone. Fury, who was on the sky carrier, asked Steve to take Natasha to capture Loki. The reason why Loki was not informed was because Fury wanted to see if what Yejuju said was true. "I also want to see if I can defeat it with the power of the earth itself, God." Of course, it was also because of Yejuju's existence that Fury did not drag Tony aboard the sky aircraft carrier as in the play. When S.H.I.E.L.D. found Loki, Yejuju also found Loki through the Red Queen's search. Holding his hands, Yejuju almost laughed out loud as he looked at the live broadcast of Loki's live broadcast of all the upper-class people attending the meeting, yelling and threatening, and kneeling in front of him. To be honest, he didn't have a good impression of these so-called upper-class people. He felt relieved to see them lose their dignity. At the same time, Tony's very dissatisfied voice sounded in the headset. "Yeah, is this guy the god of mischief you said? Oh, this guy is even more arrogant than me. It makes me want to punch him. What should I do? Haha, this is easy to handle. It's time for you to fight with him. However, I have to remind you. This guy is very cunning and difficult to deal with. Don't hit anyone. Oh, no, you can't beat God, but he beats you instead. Haha. Oh, you guy, can't you say something to make me happy?" Snort. Don't underestimate people either. Me, Iron Man is very powerful. God. Hee hee. Speaking of which, I haven't really had a fight with God yet. I might as well teach them a lesson at some point. Listening to Tony's confident and sarcastic words in the headset, Yejuju wanted to tell him. You are actually the only man on Earth who can fight against gods with the help of technology and money. Then, Steve appeared. Steve jumped out of the fighter plane in full uniform and started humming Rocky on the spot. The difference is that this time Loki was not deliberately defeated by Steve and captured on the Sky aircraft carrier in an attempt to provoke the hatred of the so-called Avengers like in the TV series. By the way, he also delayed the time so that Eric could build the device to open the space-time wormhole. Again, because of Yejiju's intervention, the Avengers was not established as in the play. However, everyone who was supposed to participate showed up one by one, except for the God of Thunder who didn't show up yet. The return of Team Me and Natasha's appearance brought Dr. Banner to the table. Speaking of which, the Avengers at this time are still very strong. After all, there is just an uncontrolled Hulk, and even Yejiju doesn't want to provoke this big guy with a bad temper. Afraid of being picked up by the feet and wheeling rice on the ground. Yejiju couldn't help but twitch his lips when he watched Loki disappear into the crowd after several sneak attacks on the captain to no avail. My evaluation of Steve had to rise several notches. It's no wonder why netizens in the previous life had such high evaluations of Team Me. They all said that he was the being closest to God in Marvel. It was all because the film director weakened Team Me. One moment, even ordinary criminals can fight back and forth with Team Me, and the next, they can fight back and forth with the Overlord-level Thanos. This strength is really limitless. In fact, through this battle between Team Me and Rocky, Yejiju could figure it out. The physical fitness of the Me team is indeed strong enough, even slightly better than what I am now. The reason why he seems to be evenly matched with anyone is that Captain Me's fighting ability is really lacking. If Captain Me had his own ability as a high-level combat master, he would not say this. He can really beat Thanos in the hands of Thanos. And his biggest reliance is also the vibranium alloy shield in his hand. It has to be said that this thing can really stand shoulder to shoulder with those artifacts in Marvel. Look, countless sneak attacks by Loki were blocked by this solid shield. Seeing this, Yejiju wanted to take Captain Me's shield for himself. In the end, he gave up this idea because Captain Me really couldn't do without this shield. Okay. In fact, Yejiju was not sure that after taking Steve's shield, and Captain Me would not turn against him. He was not afraid of shield and Team Me, but in order to live in peace with them in the future, it was better not to be so greedy. In the end, Loki's disappearance really shocked Fury, who was watching on the sky carrier. It was not until then that Fury believed Yejiju's words and raised the level of this incident to the highest level. All the forces belonging to S.H.I.E.L.D. were also mobilized afterwards, ready to detect where Loki would open a space wormhole, so as to evacuate the people there, so as not to hurt innocent people when fighting with aliens. Afterwards, after thinking again and again, Fury still answered Yejiju's call. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan-Chi. Chapter 338. Hot recommendation. When Yejiju saw that the caller ID was Lu Dan, he happily answered the phone and said, "Hello, Director Furui, do you believe me now? Next, are you going to ask me to help you solve this trouble? It's a deal. You must agree to my reward." Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. After the words fell, Furui's unpleasant voice came from the other side. "This is not the time to talk about this, right? Yet. Forget it, I'm not in the mood to argue with you, anyway. I will definitely promise you, but you should also tell me where the space wormhole that Loki mentioned is most likely to be opened, right? I think. You don't want to see ordinary people die because of Loki." Hearing this, Yejiju sighed helplessly and said, "I think the biggest probability is downtown New York. If you believe me, you can arrange for people to start evacuating the people there. And my friends and I will help fight the aliens as soon as they invade." After saying this, Yejiju hung up the phone decisively. In order to avoid talking about it, he would not be able to help but tell Fury that the location where the space wormhole is opened is on the roof of Tony's new building. In order to avoid Loki opening the wormhole, Fury and his men would capture Eric and he would not be able to open the space wormhole. In this way, all his plans to gain benefits would be in vain. In fact, in Yejiju's opinion, Loki should deliberately be captured by the Avengers to help his men buy time. Why did he slip away early this time? Unable to figure out why, Yejiju had to put it aside. But another question came to mind. If Loki didn't fall into the hands of S.H.I.E.L.D., how could Thor come? Could it be that? Should he contact the Rainbow Bridge himself and go up to find Thor to come to Earth to participate in the battle? But after thinking about it, Yejiju gave up this plan. After all, he only had 3 chances to go to Asgard as rewarded by the system. It's really not worthwhile to waste one chance for a Thor. In fact, he could also fly to the town of Pondiantigo last time, call Heimdall there, and call Thor to Earth. But Yejiju just didn't want to ask Odin for help, so he gave up the idea of calling Thor. What he didn't know was that Loki was monitored by Heimdall as soon as he returned to the 9 realms. Diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. And Odin also knew everything Loki did on Earth. Originally, Odin planned to wait for Yejiju to call Heimdall and ask for help in Asgard, and then let Thor come down to help the people of Midgard. Unexpectedly, Yejiju never used this opportunity from beginning to end. This made Odin look up to Yejiju a little. But at the same time, he didn't want his adopted son to be killed by Yejiju and others, so Odin still planned to let Thor go down to Midgard at the last minute. First, to help the people of Midgard and win the defense war. Second, naturally, he didn't want Loki to die in Midgard. Time passed quickly, and the sky was bright in a blink of an eye. And a large number of troops appeared in the center of New York City, and they asked the people to be prepared to enter the air raid shelter at any time on the grounds of exercises. This was also a solution that Fury had no choice. After all, no matter whether Yejiju's words were accurate or not, Fury didn't dare to let the people evacuate New York without reason. But just in case, they still found the worst excuse for acting. Fortunately, when the war started, there were military personnel, and they could quickly transfer the people underground, which could be regarded as protecting these ordinary people. At this time, the 3 sky carriers were quietly hovering over New York after being invisible, detecting all suspicious places and personnel. But they only ignored Tony's Stark building. This can be regarded as a lapse in 100 precautions. After all, Tony is Yejiju's friend. If the location of the space wormhole is really there, Yejiju would have asked Tony to prepare long ago. Besides, Tony's Stark group is not so easy to deal with. It has its own defense methods. Unfortunately, they all ignored a reality. That is, Loki's mind scepter can control any ordinary person whose mental power is not high enough. If you want to control a senior executive of the Stark Group and let him take Eric to the top of the Stark building, it is really not a difficult task. After Tony returned to the building, he went straight into the studio to make the final preparations, so he naturally didn't notice Eric on the rooftop. It was under such circumstances that Eric built a device to activate the Space Stone. When the device was turned on, even if Fury found out, it would be impossible to stop it. You know, the core of the device is the Space Stone, and the energy contained in it is terrifying. Once it is turned on, the energy shield formed outside the device cannot be broken even if Thor uses Mjolnir to hammer it. At the moment the device was turned on, a thick and dazzling beam of light was projected straight into the sky from the top of the Stark building in the sky of New York. You reading? Instantly, the light column formed a thick cloud in the sky. The cloud became thicker and thicker, gradually forming a circle that almost covered half of New York. Then, lightning and thunder flashed in the cloud, and the cloud gradually revealed a hole that could not be seen from the middle. At this time, if someone could look at the hole, they would see countless space battleships that only appear in science fiction movies, densely packed near the hole. Before those New York citizens who love to watch the excitement could react, several small aircraft drilled out of the wormhole and flew rapidly in the air for a while. Then, as if they had received an order, a large number of aircraft flew out of it like flies, densely packed. It was not until then that Fury, who was on the sky carrier, took satellite photos and saw what monsters were on it. They were some monsters wearing strange silver armor, with extremely ugly appearances, more like beasts than humans. The large number of them made Fury feel that this would be a very difficult war for the people on Earth. Yes. It was a war. A war between aliens and the people on Earth for life and death. The next second, Fury stood in the commander's position of the main ship and issued an order for all to attack. 3 sky carriers slowly emerged from the sky above New York, surrounding the space wormhole from a distance. Countless fighters took off from the deck and surrounded those aircraft. Then, a fighter took off from the aircraft carrier and landed on the ground. From it walked the fully armed Captain Me, Natasha, and a man in plain clothes who looked a little timid. It was Dr. Banner, who had not yet started the transformation. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan Chi. Chapter 339. Popular Recommendations. At the same time, Furui answered Yejiju's call and said, "No further nonsense, aliens have begun to invade. I hope you can come to support as soon as possible." Yejiju said while flying rapidly in the sky. "No problem, Director Fury. In fact, you can see me in 3 seconds at most." Yejiju, who was flying in the air, was very happy because the moment the wormhole opened, he received a system prompt. "Congratulations to the host for triggering the world mission. Killing the Chitauri who invaded New York, 0/100, rewards 10,000 experience points. Killing the Chitauri super beast, Leviathan, 0/5, rewards 50,000 experience points. Successfully closing the wormhole, 0/1, will reward you with 10,000 experience points. The mission reward is very generous, and it is worthy of being a grand scene in the Marvel world. Once you get it, you will get a total of 70,000 experience rewards." Yejiju couldn't help but be happy, and his combat power instantly exploded. On the sky aircraft carrier, as soon as Yejiju finished speaking, his subordinates reported, "Director, we found a suspicious flying object, it's moving very fast, and it's about to enter the combat airspace." As soon as the sound fell, Furui also saw from the surveillance screen that the familiar silver figure was flying over at high speed. If it wasn't Yejiju who flew in wearing a battle armor, who else? Then, a red figure flew out from the top of the Stark Tower. It was Iron Man Tony. Further away, a red and blue figure was flying on a swing like a monkey on the streets of New York. It was Yejiju's friend, Spider-Man Parker, a good New York citizen. These 2 people were exactly the 2 people Yejiju notified before setting off. Looking at these 2 figures, Fury couldn't help but want to trick them all into joining his Avengers alliance. In this way, your team will be greatly strengthened, and it will be a good trump card for S.H.I.E.L.D. now and in the future. Pity. He knew that Yejiju would not join the Avengers. If he doesn't join, Tony and Parker will most likely not join either. He also knew that what Yejiju said was true. Once these people joined S.H.I.E.L.D., they would inevitably become tools for powerful people to clear obstacles and seek benefits. This was not only something Yejiju didn't want to do, but it was also something he didn't want to see. But there is a saying that goes well, when you are in a situation, you cannot help yourself. To put it bluntly, he is always a member of the system, and some things are beyond his control. After all, he is also controlled by the World Security Council, and he has to accept some tasks and not let his subordinates do them. This was also the reason why Steve and S.H.I.E.L.D. later fell out. Without further ado, in the sky above New York, Yejiju and Tony had flown near the wormhole and fought against the Chitauri aircraft. Yejiju's attack was simple and crude, his hands transformed into red bows, and energy arrows shot out of his hands one after another. For every arrow that missed, a Chitauri flying a flying machine was shot to death by Yejuju. The aircraft also crashed from the sky to the ground, and the other Chitauri on it was also thrown to the ground to death. It has to be said that the Chitauri are the least powerful aliens in Marvel. Not only can guns and ammunition kill them, but they can also die if they fall from the air. Compared to aliens who can fly briefly or have special abilities, they are really weak. Even the space dogs in Thanos' army, which are equally large in number and have no intelligence at all, are not as effective as them. Not only did Yejuju fight easily, but even Tony felt that these aliens were really weak. He didn't even use the small missiles on his body. He just used the shock beam on his palm to kill one child at a time. The two were having a great time fighting in the air. On the ground, Team Me took Natasha and the transformed Banner. Also kill the Chitauri on the ground as they disembark from the craft. For a time, the streets of New York were filled with smoke and flames of war. Many buildings were destroyed by the fighting between the two sides, and the streets were even worse. Burning vehicles could be seen everywhere. Throughout downtown New York, not only the US team and the others were fighting the Chitauri, but the soldiers also formed their own positions to fight the Chitauri. Fortunately, as soon as the battle broke out, the citizens were escorted by the army and moved to underground air raid shelters. At this time, even though the Chitauri troops were all over the streets of New York, few New York citizens were injured or died. After a while, Parker also came to the battlefield and joined the army's defense. Unfortunately, compared to the speed with which Yejuju and Tony killed the Chitauri, Parker's efficiency was not ideal. After all, what he is good at is control rather than output. Kill. It's really not his specialty. More and more Chitauri flew out of the wormhole. Although Yejuju didn't feel any difficulty, the fighter planes and armed helicopters fighting the Chitauri aircraft in the sky did. After all, compared to those aircraft, the flexibility of fighter planes and helicopters is much worse. If you want to flexibly turn in a small distance, chase those aircraft or avoid the attacks of the aircraft, but you can't. Seeing that the human-sized fighter planes were damaged, Yejuju immediately released 6 liquid robots from space to join the battle. Although the combat effectiveness of these liquid robots is not as good as that of the red and blue clothes, when it comes to air combat, they are much more powerful than the red and blue clothes. After all, the red and blue clothes are limited by themselves and cannot fly. Seeing Yejuju release the liquid robot, Tony was naturally not to be outdone. While asking Jarvis to release the robot he created, he said to Yejuju in the communication channel, "Yeah. Don't think that you are the only one who has help. I am not bad either. I will also let you see the results of my hard work for so long." After saying that, no less than 10 armored robots flew out from Tony's building and joined the battle. Suddenly, the Chitauri aircraft flying around in the sky were unlucky. The air was like dumplings. From time to time, Chitauri aircraft were destroyed by the 2 men and the robots. This scene made Loki, who was also on a Chitauri aircraft, grit his teeth. If he hadn't known that he couldn't defeat Yejuju, he would have led his men up to kill Yejuju. Parker on the ground was awkwardly dodging the concentrated fire of several Chitauri. When he took the time to see Yejuju and Tony killing everyone in the air, he immediately shouted into the headset, "Yeah, Mr. Tony, you can't just focus on the battle in the sky. You can't ignore those on the ground. There are so many enemies that I can't even defeat them. Please help." Hearing Parker's shout, Yejuju couldn't help laughing, but he reacted immediately. "You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan. Chapter 340. Popular recommendations. After taking advantage of the opportunity to shoot another Chitauri who was driving an aircraft, Yejuju quickly landed from the air to the ground. Seeing Parker using the spider silk jet on his wrist to wrap a Chitauri man and gun on the ground without interfering with the soldiers to kill the Chitauri man, Yejuju waved his hand and released his own from the space. Mechanical pets. Searched can on Google. In an instant, a magical scene appeared in the eyes of Parker and the soldiers. I saw 3 tall guys appearing out of thin air in front of everyone. One of them was a huge 2-headed dragon. Amidst a burst of clattering sounds, they dispersed and turned into 5 human beings. Look-alike person. Without saying a word, the 5 humans each used their hands to conjure 2 firearms and started shooting at the Chitauri who were besieging the place. Then, the huge 3-headed dog also turned into 6 mechanical dogs and pounced on the enemy. It shoots bullets from its mouth, and bites and attacks at close range. Its combat effectiveness is quite strong. What's even more amazing is that a robot about 30 meters tall decomposed into 5 robots over 5 meters tall. One hand raised a huge weird-looking gun to shoot, and the other hand held a huge sword. Kill the Chitauri who rush in front of them. Finally, there was a robot over 3 meters tall, holding a sharp tang knife in each hand, and rushed into the enemy group with agile movements. The 12 creatures had joined the battle and immediately relieved the pressure here, almost wiping out all the Chitauri around them. Seeing how powerful these creatures were in combat, Parker suddenly shouted exaggeratedly. "Wow! Yeah, when did you get so many robots? They are really amazing. Also, I really want to have such a robot." When the soldiers heard Parker's shouting, they realized that these robots were made by the man in front of them. When they understood, they couldn't help but admire Yejuju, and some soldiers even whistled excitedly at Yejuju and the 12 mechanical creatures. Yejuju killed a Chitauri who rushed from a distance with an arrow. He gave Parker a thumbs up and said, "Okay, there are red clothes on the ground to help you, I won't care about you, keep fighting." After saying that, he mentally ordered the red ones to follow Parker, kill the Chitauri on the ground, start the thrusters, and fly into the sky again. In the sky, an aircraft flew near Tony. When Yejuju flew up, he happened to see Barton standing on the aircraft. At this time, Barton stood at the tail end of the aircraft like a nail, or a metal strap was tied around his waist to fix him to the aircraft. The bow in his hand was already strung with an arrow, aiming at Tony who was excited to kill in the air. Yejuju had excellent eyesight and could tell at a glance that this arrow was an extremely powerful explosive arrow. Although I knew that the defense of Tony's armor was very strong and could not be damaged by ordinary bombs, I still wanted to see Tony's embarrassment. After all, no matter how strong the defense of Tony's armor is, it will inevitably be embarrassed by the impact of the explosion. To be honest, he really wanted to see Tony in such a miserable state so that he could use it as a source of fun for Tony in the future. Thinking of this, Yejuju stopped reminding Tony and just waited to see Tony's joke. Sure enough, Patton's archery skills were amazing. Although Tony changed positions in the sky from time to time, and even though he had Jarvis to help him fight to warn him of danger, Patton still locked onto him and shot him with a whoosh arrow without hesitation. "Go out." There was a violent explosion, and in the fire and smoke, Tony's figure in armor rolled several somersaults in the air before stopping. When he turned around and saw that the attacker was a human, Tony suddenly became angry. With a move of his shoulders, the missile launcher opened and he was about to attack Barton. Yejuju didn't want Tony to kill Barton. After all, Barton was also a member of the Avengers. After all, he couldn't explain to Fury if he killed him. So he immediately stopped him and said, "Don't kill him, Tony. He's the guy from SHIELD. His name is Hawkeye Clinton Francis Patton. The reason why he attacks you is because Loki used the Mind Stone to control you. I have a way to wake him up. Go kill the Chitauri and just give him to me." Of course, Yejuju didn't tell anyone that the way to wake up Hawkeye Barton was just Shan. Hearing this, Tony, who was about to launch missiles at Patton's aircraft, cursed shit, reluctantly closed the missile magazine on his shoulder, and said to Yejuju angrily. "Yeah, you'd better stop him quickly and stop trying to attack me. Otherwise, if there is another time, I will kill him no matter who he is." Snort. After saying that, Tony started the thrusters, and with a whoosh sound, he disappeared instantly, caught up with a Chitauri aircraft and launched an attack. Yejuju ignored Tony, who was leaving. The thrusters exploded and he chased Patton's aircraft. After the aircraft shot an arrow at Tony, Patton stopped shooting at Tony. Although his mind was controlled by Loki, his fighting instinct was still there, and he knew that with the arrow in his hand missing, there was nothing Yuugon could do against Tony. Instead of wasting arrows to prevent Tony from killing the Chitauri, it would be more economical to find other opponents to kill. Just then, Barton saw Yejuju flying towards him. Although he could see that Yejuju was wearing the same armor as Tony, he still shot an arrow quickly to stop Yejuju from approaching him. Yejuju had been paying attention to Barton for a long time. When he heard the sound of the bowstring, he immediately made a dodging move. Fortunately, his mental strength was high enough, and he could feel the direction of the danger. He twisted his body slightly during the high-speed flight and easily dodged the arrow. After dodging the arrow, Yejuju also admired Barton's archery skills in his heart. Even with his high physical fitness, he only saw a black shadow and didn't see the arrow clearly at all. It can be imagined. How fast was the arrow shot by Barton? No wonder Tony couldn't avoid Barton's arrow even though he had Jarvis to help him fight. Seeing that Yejuju dodged an arrow, Barton's serious face showed a touch of astonishment, which really shocked him. Apart from other things, before he met Loki and Yejuju, he was an archer who never missed his target. But not long ago, he met Loki, and his arrow was easily blocked by Loki with his mind scepter. Now, he was easily dodged by Yejuju again, which made him start to lose confidence in his archery. Unfortunately, he began to doubt his life, and Yejuju would not let him go. The speed of the aircraft may be very fast, but how could it be faster than the flying speed of Yejuju's armor? In just a few breaths, Yejuju caught up with Patton's aircraft. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan. Chapter 341. Popular recommendations. Barton knew what Yejuju was chasing after him, so he naturally would not surrender. He shot an arrow to block Yejuju, and was ready for a close combat. Sure enough, after Barton shot 3 arrows in a row but Yejuju dodged them, he finally let Yejuju catch up with the aircraft. It has to be said that Barton is a master in shield, second only to Natasha in fighting ability. The moment Yejuju got on the aircraft, taking advantage of Yejuju's unsteady footing, Barton waved the bow in his hand, and the bowstring strangled Yejuju's neck. Unfortunately, Barton's melee combat ability was quite good in the past, but he had no room to fight back in the face of Yejuju's advanced combat master skills. Except for attacking Yejuju once, there was no chance to continue the attack. Yejuju easily bent down to avoid the sweeping bow, and then crouched close to Barton. Before Barton could react, Yejuju stretched out his hands and grabbed them, and the bow fell to the ground. But in the face of Yejuju's huge power, no matter how hard Barton tried, he couldn't move at all. Then, Barton was unwilling to be captured. When he raised his feet and wanted to attack Yejuju with both feet, Yejuju easily defused his attack with his feet. Then, grab the palms of Barton's hands and exert a little force. Barton felt the pulse on his wrist tighten, and then all the strength in his body seemed to be drained, and he could no longer exert any strength. If his hands hadn't been pinched by Yejuju, he would have been so weak that he collapsed on the aircraft. Seeing that Barton was completely restrained, Yejuju flew away from the aircraft with Barton's body without hesitation. The moment it took off, it hit the Chitauri who was piloting the aircraft hard on the back of the head. This kick killed the Chitauri piloting the aircraft, causing the aircraft to lose control instantly and crash into a building crookedly. Taking Barton down to the ground, this is the battlefield where Team Rice and Natasha cooperate with each other. On the building in the distance, the Hulk is like a giant gorilla, jumping and climbing on the nearby buildings. The Chitauri who were clinging to it were grabbed by the necks one by one as if they were catching fleas, and then fell to the ground and died alive. It was so violent. Seeing this scene, Yejuju also praised Hulk's fighting ability, which is really good, but the damage caused by this fighting method is really not small. Didn't you see that every time he jumped and climbed, the surface of the building would be shattered into pieces? No wonder. Although the Avengers solved the crisis on Earth during this alien crisis, many people did not agree with it. He even spoke out against them. After this battle, the damage caused to New York City was no less than that caused by the alien invasion. Steve and Natasha are surrounded by more than 20 Chitauri. The two cooperate with each other, using the shield and Natasha's fighting ability, as well as the Widow's sting in her hands. After finally killing the Chitauri who were surrounding them, they saw Yejuju falling from the sky. "It's you." Exactly the same exclamations came from the mouths of Team Me Steve and Black Widow Natasha. After asking, the two of them looked at each other involuntarily, seeming to wonder why the other knew Yejuju. Yejuju shrugged and said, "I came to help in the battle at the invitation of Director Fury. This man I captured is also a member of your shield. However, he was controlled by Loki long ago. I brought him down to wake him up." At this time, Natasha also saw clearly the person Yejuju was holding. It was Hawkeye Barton, their partner who helped each other and joined S.H.I.E.L.D. The two mentioned that they still had a relationship, so Natasha shouted in surprise. "Ah! Why is it him? Why is he in your hands?" Yejuju heard the words. Without answering Natasha's question, he squeezed Barton's shoulder with one hand and used force to prevent Barton from moving at all. A hand stretched out and stood on Hawkeye Barton's face. Of course, Steve and Natasha just saw it. In fact, Yejuju didn't use any power. He was also afraid that if his armor-clad palms were too strong, he would kill Hawkeye Barton. "Papa Papa," several crisp slaps sounded. Seeing Barton's head shaking violently from these slaps, Steve and Natasha couldn't help but step forward to stop Yejuju. Barton suddenly asked, "Who are you? Why are you hitting me? Where am I?" Hiss. The last sound was obviously caused by pain in the cheek. Seeing that Barton really woke up, Yejuju let go of Barton and said, "Remember that you were controlled by Loki? I woke you up, no need to thank me. The situation is urgent, you stay here with the captain and Natasha to defend the ground." After saying that, Yejuju ignored the three people who were a little stunned. The thrusters started instantly, and they flew up to high altitude again, attacking the strange aircraft flying randomly in the sky. You know, he completed his first mission by killing the Chitauri, 35/100, but he was still a little short of the boss. "If we don't kill enough people before the military launches missiles, I really don't know when we can complete this mission." In the following time, Yejuju was like a precise killing machine, shooting arrows faster and faster, and his archery skills became more and more sharp. In a short period of time, he shot and killed many Chitauri who were driving Chitauri aircraft. The number of Chitauri who died directly and indirectly soon exceeded 100. When the prompt of completing the task sounded, Yejuju finally woke up from the killing with an unsatisfied mind. Congratulations to the host, completing the world task. Kill the Chitauri who invaded New York, 100/100, to reward 10,000 experience points. The rest of the tasks are to be completed, please continue to work hard. Tips: the host's level has been upgraded, and the current level is 31, with 5 points for strength and 5 points for physical strength. Intelligence, spirit, and agility are each increased by 1, and have been automatically assigned to the attribute panel. Please check the details for yourself. In fact, this does not mean that Yejuju killed so many Chitauri alone. This also requires the red and blue clothes on the ground, so that so many Chitauri were killed in such a short time. Compared to Yejuju, the 12 mechanical creatures are more like killing machines. They have no sympathy for the weak. Even though some of them are transformers transformed by transformation elements, they are different from the transformers from Cybertron. They only have the enemy and Yejuju, their master, in their eyes. As long as the master's order is issued, they will complete the order without hesitation even if there is a deep abyss or a sea of fire and swords ahead.